Identity is a word that everyone can understand, but not something that everyone can define. Identity could be something that we take for granted. A person can be identified by their face and voice. But what if we ask about someone's identity? Neither of them are mentioned. We focus more on a person's character, the colour of their skin, their culture, and other aspects of their lives. Jenkins says that identity is the capacity to know who's who, knowing who we are, knowing who others are. Jenkins, 2008, page 5. Many examples when we see people having an identity crisis. But what does this entail? Isn't this just a person breaking rules within society in which society is placed? Garfunkel, 2004, cited from Lawler 2015, page 2. In this video, I will discuss the theoretical issues with identity through my reading, the reflection on the artifact, and my own interpretation of identity. Before we discuss the theories, we should look at the artifact me and my group created. If you don't know what it is, the artifact is 4 different masks depicting how an individual would have a different mask for a different occasion. My definition of identity is that it's fluid. An individual has a different identity depending on the situation. For example, I have a different identity when I'm attending university or work, but when I'm with friends or family, my identity is completely different. It is when these identities blend or change, the problems come up. People are described as two-faced, fake, or that they have revealed their true colours. All are negative phrases towards an individual who revealed a different identity to those who are used to seeing it. We only show the world the best pieces of ourselves after all. But why would someone need to wear a mask? Regina Gagnier wrote, "I may feel like a king, but I won't be treated like one at the bank." Gagnier, 2000, page 238, cited from Lawler 2015, page 7. Does this mean our feelings towards our identity is irrelevant in the face of institutions? Is our identity presumed based on our skin colour, religion, social class, and other factors? Let's look at some more theorists and see if they can answer these questions. Bourdieu wrote of how a person's sense of place in the world can lead them to exclude themselves from places they can enter. Bourdieu, 1984, page 471, cited from Vincent, 2003, page 53. This could be because they haven't acquired the appropriate mask to show to people we believe frequent those areas. Let's take the opera theatre, for instance. If we don't go to an opera we are familiar with, we don't know the social cues, the unwritten rules, the etiquette a person would display while attending. If we don't have that basic information, we are more than likely not going to attend an opera. Not that we are unable to, but because we are of the impression that we will not fit in. Fitting in could be considered one of the major reasons why people try to develop these different identities. As I mentioned earlier, I have an identity while at work, school, and a different one when around friends and family. But rather than using the term fitting in, let's describe them as frames. Irving Goffman, 1975, describes framing as a point of view of the individual and the interaction between the institution in the world. Jenkins, 2008. This explains why we need a mask for different situations, one for the public and one for the private. Even though we may feel safe or secure with our friends or family, there is still an element hidden from them to feel acceptance of some kind. One cannot truly be themselves, and it could be argued that no one truly knows the type of person they are, because they are constantly switching between masks. It is difficult to say what exactly identity is. After all, it is a complex subject. If human beings are constantly switching between masks, can anyone truly say they know who they are? Over the past few years, people have had an identity crisis. They could be a celebrity or average people like you or me. They may try and justify it. I feel like I'm trapped in somebody else's body. Or, in some cases, they always saw themselves as the opposite sex. although brave to try and break away from society's norms and do something they believe in. Couldn't the argument be made that they are merely choosing to apply a new mask by publicly denouncing the old one? You might often hear the saying, my body might have changed, but I'm still the same person inside. But are somewhat correct. What happens when you are introduced to new norms and social spaces? A person will ultimately want to be accepted in that frame, and as a consequence, don a new mask that would ultimately not make them the same person. As I mentioned before, identity is a complex subject, but there are many ways to interpret its meanings, and I'm left with more questions than answers. I wonder what type of mask I would need to wear in order to find them out, if any. I hope that you have been able to find new meaning towards identity. Thanks very much for watching.